Today we're taking a look at the brand new Sigma 500mm f5.6. Now, in case you missed it, Sigma just released two new lenses. One is the new fisheye 15mm f1.4, and I do have a review of that lens on my channel, and so if you're interested in that lens, check out the link in the description below. But another lens they released and I'm really excited about is the new 500mm f5.6 Sport. Now, I do want to mention that Sigma did send me this lens to check out, but as always, I'm not getting paid and I get to say whatever I want, and so you're gonna get my full and honest opinion. And so with that, let's dive in talking about first what I think about the overall image performance of this lens. This is a 500mm f5.6 prime lens that falls into Sigma's Sport series lineup. And with that, you do get the image performance of the other Sport series lenses. You get really fast autofocus with their new HLA autofocus system, and this lens is stabilized using their OS2 stabilization system. This lens is plenty sharp, has really good chromatic aberration control. I think there may be some focus breathing. I didn't test it a ton, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially for the fact that it is a super telephoto lens. Much like most other Sigma lenses, this lens is going to be very sharp, offer a really good quality, clean image. And so with that said, I'm a fan of the Sigma look, and so you may not be surprised when I say I'm a fan of what this lens does produce. And so with that, let's go and talk about the build of this lens, because arguably, while as good as the image is from this lens, the biggest reason you're gonna buy this lens is for its build, because it is super light. And so let's talk about the build quality of this lens. Now, the lens is made up of a high grade plastic, much like the Sigma 70-200 that was just released, and that is going to cut down on weight. And so while this may be a little bit longer because it is a telephoto lens, it is going to be surprisingly light. This thing was such a dream to carry around. I didn't feel like I was carrying around a heavy zoom lens. And so if you are someone that travels and does wildlife photography and you need to cut down on weight in your backpack or your travel kit, this is absolutely one to consider. Now, beyond that, let's talk about some of the other physical features of this lens. You are gonna have a physical aperture ring, which is really nice. Now, something different, it is at the front of the lens. And with that, the focus hold buttons are gonna be at the front of the lens as well, and the aperture switches that allow for you to unlock and lock the aperture from going into auto or manual mode. And you're also going to have a click and declick switch at the front of the lens as well. Now, a couple of other switches you're going to have is a customizable switch. You're also going to have a stabilization switch. You're going to have a focus limiter switch, which is really helpful for being able to limit the focus so that your autofocus can perform a little bit better. And you're obviously going to have a manual focus and autofocus switch. You're also going to have a tripod collar and an included lens hood with this lens as well. The lens is weather sealed, and so that's something that's nice to see, especially for wildlife photographers. And then the last thing to mention is that you are going to have a 95mm filter thread, and so you may be using larger screw-on filters if you do plan on using screw-on filters, but that's something to keep in mind when you are purchasing this lens. Overall, I'm really happy with the construction of this lens. Again, one of the biggest selling points for this lens is the fact that you're going to have a 500mm lens in your bag that's not going to add a ton of weight because of the overall size of this lens. And so with that, let's talk about who this lens is for. Honestly, it's probably a bit more of a niche lens, because a lot of times we may all want to go with a super telephoto zoom, maybe for that range. But again, if you're someone that needs a telephoto focal length, a super telephoto focal length, something like 500mm, and you don't want a heavy lens in your bag, or you want to lighten up your overall kit, this is absolutely the lens for you. And so if you are someone that is maybe a wildlife photographer, you're constantly on the move, you want to lighten up your overall load, then I would absolutely check out the new Sigma 500mm f5.6. And so that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. And if you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. If you have any more questions from this lens, I only had the lens for a few days, and so if there's something I didn't cover or you just have more questions, let me know in the comments below. But always, thank you all for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Peace.